Hallelujah.
All right, so tonight is day 3 of our Clinical Awareness Conference, and we're hitting 2 lectures this evening. And before doing so, I'm just going to take a few moments to make sure that we're all on the same page. If anyone had any questions or comments in the past few nights, you can make them now. Because the way I'm looking at this is, I look at us all, we're on this quest for oneness together. Mm-hmm. And the way I'm explaining it, that's my ability, as the Spirit has revealed it to me. And if there's anything that you're not understanding, we're not even agreeing with. This is what we're here for, to discuss those things. Now, I'm not someone to take myself too seriously. I'm not saying it's not presenting is perfect. That's why we're here. So the iron that I have, when you sharpen the iron, you do that. Mm-hmm. So otherwise, I'm going to assume that everyone, we're on the same page, we're all in agreement, and then as we go from this conference, I'll be looking for execution from everybody. Yes. Mainly myself, but I'll be looking for all of us to apply this to our lives. And if not, this is the avenue, this is the time to discuss how we're feeling, discuss, because I don't know it all. I'm looking at a lot of people in this room who are older than me, wiser than me, have more knowledge than I have. So, feel free to, otherwise I'm wondering. So I know that when we first started, on the first day, I asked, if you thought we'd be perfect. And some said yes, some said maybe not, some they didn't know. But after we went through the scripture, everyone conceded to go ahead, we can be perfect. It's possible. So at this point in time, I believe that everyone believes that we can master faith, and we can have full faith in the Father and in His will, and that we can be fully obedient to His will. Yes. We can comply, we can conform, and we can be transformed. Yes. Okay. Everyone believes that tonight. Yes. Anyone does not believe that?
Lord, I believe everything you presented the last 2 nights, but I want to encourage people to understand that people may sometimes still struggle with the phrase perfect. Some people still in their minds maybe struggle with that, but the scripture talks about being perfect for your Father in heaven is perfect. And also said being holy. And as you speak of the pinnacle of holiness and 16 steps to perfection, holiness, completeness, it's all the same thing. So if those who hear us tonight and as you teach still struggle with that word, just remember, it just means holy, sanctification, and it's all a process. Some people still in the back of their mind may struggle with that term, perfect.
Right. And that's why in my book, and I think on the first day, I tried my best to make sure we were looking at perfection, make spiritual perfection. It's a spiritual feat that can be accomplished with divine assistance. So if you look at perfection from a physical perspective, what can I do on my own? Then you look at it the wrong way. And in that regard, no, we can't be perfect. But we have to realize we're not alone. We have His Spirit, we have His power, we have His name. We have everything we need to be holy. We just have to have the desire to complement the power we have. All right, so let's continue with our special holiness. I want to, and going forward, really quickly recap yesterday. We had faith and obedience, and the cycle of faith was, remember the 3 degrees of faith? Hope. Hope was from the path. Trust kept us from the path. And reliance finished with the path. And that was the first level of holiness. Then we kind of the first interval, our first step. We took a step. What was that step? Obedience. What were the 3 parts of obedience? Remember? Compliance. Conformance. Very good. Transformation. All right. So that's what we learned so far. And the reason why we needed to master faith and obedience is because we said there was physical stimuli coming into our minds unabated. And that led to a steady influx of ungodly thoughts, which ultimately became ungodly intentions, which ultimately becomes ungodly actions. So we have to stop that process first by addressing the physical stimuli that is coming into our mind. What's the first thing we did in doing that? We put up a fence, and that fence represents faith. Okay, and then what happened after that? We had an armed guard and watchman. So that's where we left off yesterday. Now, what happens next is quite fascinating, because before we go on to the level of virtue, this physical stimuli, it hits that fence, now it's starting to do what? It's bouncing off. It's not penetrating. So what do you think happens after that? Who becomes aware of that? The enemy becomes aware of that. Well, who else? There are three divisions of our body. Which division becomes aware of that? Yes. The flesh. So what happens is, because what's happened is this. As we are now rejecting ungodly thoughts and we are now faithful and obedient, the flesh is not able to do what it wants to do anymore. So now when you're mad and you want to say a bad word, you're not saying those anymore. Your flesh has to be quiet. When you're feeling a certain way, you want to drink alcohol or whatever is an ungodly activity, you're not doing it anymore. The flesh takes notice. Now the flesh comes to the picture. Now remember, we said the flesh is a physical guy. He's a rough guy. At the same time, it's those obedience. Okay, he came on the scene and he cast down every ungodly thought we ever had. Okay, so we got two pretty bad dudes ready to square off. Okay, that's essentially what's going to happen here. Okay, because the flesh, remember, he wants to do one thing, whatever he wants to do. Whatever the flesh wants to do, he stands at attention, then he goes to do it with all the power and might he has. Yeah. So what happens is this. Our flesh takes notice of our mastery of faith and obedience, and as a result, he ascends our fence of faith and engages our armed guard in hand-to-hand contact. Okay? Now, if we do not consign upon our mastery of obedience, the flesh will eventually retreat. Nevertheless, he will be back. When he returns, this initial battle will be elevated into an intense war. Okay? So what happens is, when the flesh and the armed guard of obedience go into battle mode, okay, we have to be obedient to allow for the armed guard to win the battle, essentially. And essentially, it's not really a fight to the death, because the flesh doesn't die. He's innate to who we are. What happens is the armed guard essentially wards him out, keeps him out of the heart, to the point to where he gives up. He realizes that this armed guard of obedience is not going anywhere. We're going to obey. Okay, we master obedience no matter what we're told to do or whatever the Spirit reveals to us, we obey. So the flesh, like, okay, after time, it's okay. This is fruitless. I'm getting nowhere with this guy. So he retreats, and guess what? He's getting ready to come back for war. So what we have to do now is we have to finish our cycle of departing from sin and build ourselves up for that war. In a few days, we're going to talk about when the flesh comes back for that war. But for now, we're going to talk about what we're going to have to do and the process to prepare for that event. Okay, so that leads us to our attainment of virtue. And with virtue, we initiate a clean break from sin. And the scripture says in Luke 6:19, and the whole multitude sought to touch him, that's Messiah, for there went virtue out of him, and he healed them all. He healed them all. Remember the phrase, healed them all. Yeah. Not a few, not some. He healed them all. Okay, we're talking about perfection, mastery, 100% markings. Okay, so really quickly, bring back the pinnacle points. What was the first level? Faith. And tonight's lesson is, and then knowledge, and then temperance, and then patience. Thank you, Brother Paul. Patience. Then we had a hidden level that wasn't in the scripture.